I take the patient's history, and then I look at the results of the urinalysis, the blood sugar, the blood cholesterol, the uric acid, the hemoglobin. I give that all a comparison in my mind compared to the symptoms that the patient relays to me. And then I do a system of what's called German electroacupuncture, of which I'm one of the original students going back into the 1970s. Dr. Reinhold Voll was my teacher in Göppingen, and I worked with him and have written several books on the subject over the years. And I use various points on the hands and feet, which represent the different portions of the body. And essentially, these are neurological connections to internal organs, and the degree of conductance of the point tells me the activity that the organ is involved in. So if the conductance is very high, it tells me there's inflammation. If it's very low, it tells me that there's lack of activity or even degeneration occurring. If it's middle in the range, based upon population norms, then we know more or less the organ is in a relatively good health of state. So that of all things, of course, we never in medicine use one system of diagnosis. We always do comparisons to make sure everything is aligned and agreed. That's how I basically do my consultation with my patients. After we do this particular consult, and I take the patient to the laboratory, and we do a final check on the blood, because we know from many years of experience the blood is almost never clean of parasites. And by parasites, I don't mean just worms, I also mean bacteria and fungus, which frequently in people who eat irregular or eat poorly or have a bad diet, there's an infiltration of gut organisms that get into the blood constantly. And if they settle in a particular organ space and they proliferate, they will cause inflammation and disease. Well, it's very important to have a general checkup, even if you feel completely healthy and free from symptoms. There can be something percolating below the level of neural threshold where you don't actually feel it, and that could be something as simple as a cavity in a tooth, or it could be a transient small infection you picked up somewhere, or it could be your whole gut is invaded by bacteria. You don't really know, you don't really feel it because you're active and you're living a busy lifestyle, but at some point you will reach breakdown. So if you come here, we can catch it early and we can correct it. I take the patient's history, and then I look at the results of the urinalysis, the blood sugar, the blood cholesterol, the uric acid, the hemoglobin. I give that all a comparison.
Yes, good evening and welcome to another Wednesday evening. We have a new show this evening. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in on this another Unreal Entertainment Network. Today we have a very interesting guest. Weekly is a 3 days, not 3 days, let me say, 3 times a month. Yes. We have Dr. Charles McMillan, Jade Wellness. He's been here in the island of Nevis for over 3 decades. And he's he's the only, we call it here, bush doctor, traditional medicine. So we'll be having a conversation every weekly Wednesday. So definitely share the link, tune in, and let everyone know that Dr. McWilliams will be here having a new show. We'll be speaking the topic West Indian medicine. But before we get into that, let me say good evening to the folks in Oli and Layamiga, which is the traditional name for St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me say good evening to the folks in neighboring islands, Sabre Station, St. Martin, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the BVI. Also the folks over in Montserrat, Antigua and Barbuda. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Also the folks over in the diaspora. This evening we have a very interesting show, and definitely looking at wellness. As we age, we tend to be less active and stuff like that, and we're going to do it the right way when it comes to using the natural medicine. Yahsonn, how are you doing?
Greetings. I am doing wonderful, Bankie. I am really happy to be a part of the initiation of this very timely and needed broadcast. And I'm grateful for I should say, I'm honored to be in the company of Professor Dr. Charles McWilliams, who has been a veteran pioneering this aspect of herbal and natural ways of healing the body, using the body to heal the body, and using plants in combination with natural exercises and acupuncture and a number of different methodologies to ensure that folks are living healthier and longer. And I do look forward to the discussion this evening and hope that you as well could take in as much as possible and use the opportunity given at the latter part to ask whatever questions you may have that the doc would be able to respond to. So I want to say good evening, Oli. I want to say good evening, La Amiga. Good evening, the entire Eastern Caribbean. And also, good morning, afternoon, or evening. Some one of these greetings would be applicable, depending on where you are around the globe, whether you're in China, Russia, Afghanistan, Africa, England, wherever you may be listening to us at this time. It's a pleasure to have you here on this platform with the first edition of West Indian medicine, traditional herbal medicine, Caribbean herbal medicine, with Professor Charles McWilliams. Good evening, Doc. Welcome.
Good evening.
Entertainment Network.
Pleasure and honor to be with you as well, sir, and pleasure and honor to be with Bankie and the Real Entertainment Network. And I want to thank you all very much for opening this opportunity to our brothers and sisters throughout the Caribbean and the diaspora to introduce this program, which is very close to my heart. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I thank you for opening this opportunity and accelerating this whole program that we're going to offer this evening for 20 and 26. So if you care, I'll just get started, Yahsonn. I tend to, when I start, I keep going.
Well, most definitely we'll give you the opportunity. The floor is yours. Talk to the people. And I'm sure at the end of your discourse and you're sharing the information, there will be lots of questions for you. So we do look forward to learning, and we may have some questions for you ourselves as well. So we do look forward to the engagement.
No problem. That's why I'm here. Well, let's give grace to our Lord and thank him for all of the wonderful bounty and beauty that we have, and thank him for allowing us to sit in his grace on the beautiful island of Nevis. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, we give thanks and reverence. And we give thanks and reverence especially to the bounty of the herbs, the bush, and the leaves that give us the medicine, and as the Bible says, the medicine for the people. And that is our prime target and goal, is to make this form of medicine more accessible to a much larger population, and hopefully inspire some people to follow in my footsteps as I've done on Nevis, going into practice and directly treating people. It's not all that difficult, but it is a learning curve. So let me kind of give you some musings this evening to give you an overview of a perspective of what has been called naturopathy, but I take issue with that word because historically it was borrowed from what we do. And originally, naturopathy began actually in Europe, what was then called Christendom, at the monasteries, and it's been branded monastic medicine. I suppose that's a fine term. And when the monasteries closed, the preachers and the ministers that were working in these monasteries, the monks and the nuns, they of course had to go to the population and start earning a living. And they became nature cure healers of various sorts. And that migrated over to the United States over time in the early colonization. And from there, that's where we begin the story of West Indian medicine proper. One, in terms of what we call West Indian medicine, and two, because of the golden era that was, of course, initiated by Columbus when he first landed on Bimini in 1426, I believe the year was. And from there, the exploitation, the colonization, the settlement, and all of the various entourage of activities that occurred with the settling of the West Indies, there was essentially an amalgamation of three different kinds of medicine. One was colonial medicine, of course, which was brought by primarily the British, French, and Dutch physicians, which we consider today, of course, to be a crude medicine, but it was the early birth of Western medicine as we know it today. But it was in its infancy at that time. And then there was a more sophisticated medicine that they had to discover on their own, which was pretty much limited to the West Indian Islands, and that was the tremendous contribution the Africans gave to medicine throughout the West Indies. The bush doctors, as they were called, or the obia, were very advanced in their knowledge about herbal medicine, to the point that they were even able to identify similar genus and species of bush that were growing on the West Indies, as well as the plants and seeds that they had brought over during the settlements of those islands. And then on top of that, the third tier in the West Indian history of medicine was the contributions of the Amerindians, specifically the Taino, the colleagues, and the Arawaks. They too contributed a lot to our knowledge of the bush because of their long, extensive history of living and settling in the West Indies. And the African healers, we know, learned a lot from them. And in turn, they learned some things from the African healers. And the group that was most surprised as to the level of sophistication of this medicine were the British and French doctors. The French doctors took it to heart and actually advanced more with it, particularly in Dominique and Haiti and those French islands that they settled. The British were a bit more reluctant in the beginning, but there was a few notable physicians that were dealing with terrible disorders, particularly yaws and dysentery, and these were life-threatening conditions, and it was the African healers that were getting the results and not them. Their patients were dying. The African people were not, by and large, and that opened up the door to the hard look at the bush and the medicinal plants of the West Indian regions. So that's a short and simple of the West Indian culture. And then there's a sad chapter in all of this, the fact that most of the valuable information, we believe, has gotten lost in time about the knowledge of the bush, save, thanks for two wonderful people, and we'll be exploring these in the course. Marcia Quinlan, who wrote this particular book as a master's thesis on her living in a small town in Dominica with indigenous people that were remote from the villages and had retained an amalgamation of colonial Arawak and African medicine. And the book is in good detail about the plants and the type of practice there. And then there was another lady, her name was Kathleen Mayer, which ultimately went on to a doctoral thesis and did a very profound study on Bahamian bush medicine on one of the remote islands of San Salvador. And this is a fabulous book.
One second, Doc. We only seen half of the book, so if you could bring it over a little bit. Okay, yes, much better. Medicine in Bahamas. Okay, great. Thanks.
This is a rare book, I tell you, and she had the assistance of botanical professors with her on this long study she did on San Salvador, and cataloged and logged in these various herbs, their habitat, their locations, and their medicinal uses. So we do have some dedicated researchers that have captured at best some of the last years of the elders living on these islands and garnering up these bush and how they're used. And then on top of all of that, I have for my students in store for you a way of practicing herbal medicine that is very scientific. It uses the traditional ways of choosing herbs, and it will get you very good clinical results if I've been practicing here on Nevis for the last 30 years. That will be part of our study program. So you will get the best of both worlds in a system of medicine that combines the old humoral medicine schools with the scientific knowledge, but from a very agronomy, agriculturally based way of looking at it. A hardcore, down-to-earth, practical way with all of the scientific confusion which is thrown into it, because you cannot take bush medicine by its essence and its implications and try to sandwich it into the Western medical model. You do not replace drugs with bush, okay? Drugs are a spin-off of the bush. The mother healer is the bush, okay? The extraction process, the taking away one particular product or parcel of it diminishes the power of the bush, I feel, diminishes the power of the bush and concentrates it into very powerful extracts, and that is used by Western medical doctors to completely overpower and subdue the physiology of the body. And that's why drugs, when they're given, like digitalis, for example, or metformin, is obtained from goat's rue, European goat's rue. You take it in those powerful concentrations, and week after week and month after month, your body will ultimately view it as a poison. It will reject it, and therefore you either become addicted to the drug and you do not get healed. When in fact, if you used it the old bush way, you would get healed with that same plant. For example, goat's rue used in Europe to treat diabetes was not something that you took the rest of your life to manipulate your body so that your sugar becomes lower. Goat's rue was taken to heal you so that your blood sugar normalizes and you don't need it the rest of your life. That's the big difference. And that's a huge takeaway. So when you take one particular powerful component out of the bush, you leave behind the other beautiful aspects that surround the bush that Mother Nature provided for us, because it's a very simple physiologic understanding. We came from the same place the plant did, the soil. We came from the soil. It says in the Bible, from dust to dust. That's not a metaphor. It actually is scientifically valid, except dust is a Western wrong interpretation, because in direct Hebrew, that word afar actually means soil. We came from the soil, which means the body is robustly filled with the same metabolic cycles as is the plants and their cells as well. We evolve from those plants. We evolve from the power of the sun. And when you take the plants whole, you get a healing. When you extract and take it away from nature and concentrate it and deliver it to the body as a stimulant, you overpower the body into a state of addiction. And it's not the correct way to do things. So that's one note I can give you this evening as to the uniqueness of the way we need to learn the herbs. And this is the reason I love the West Indian medicine. It's the only medicine historically of the world as we look at it that mastered the use of the bush as tea. The West Indian is a very much a tea culture, okay? When I mean tea, I mean tea. I mean the leaves, the roots, the bark. It's put in water, it's drawn and boiled, and you drink it as a tea. That is the best way to take the bush, okay? Putting it in capsules, extracting it, putting it in alcoholic tinctures, deranging it, those reduce the active living principles of the plant. And obviously either with heat or with alcohol or oxidation or sunshine, practical aspects, potent aspects of the leaf and the bush are going to be lost, as the healing potency too will be lost. So it's the bush. The bush is the healer, okay? And the West Indian culture was the one that perfected that art of using the bush. As simple as walking out the back door with a cold or cough, picking the plant, bringing it into the house, drawing up a tea and drinking it on the spot. That's the way the plants were meant to be used. So that's why I favor the West Indian approach, because believe it or not, as you'll learn from my teachings, that's what we call first level homeopathy. That's first level homeopathy. There's a bridge between herbs and homeopathy, and the bush, the tea, is that bridge. And we use that as a study platform to understand the materia medica of homeopathy for those that want to get into that form of energy medicine. But you do not want to study homeopathy until you understand herbal medicine. That's my advice. Those that go into homeopathy and do not learn herbal medicine do not understand the essence of the art. They do not understand the essence of the art. So that's issue number one for today.
Do you want to explain the term homeopathy? Do you want to explain the terminology for those who listen and would wonder, curious what it's all about?
I'd be happy to. Okay, homeopathy is the administration of the minimal dose. It was discovered by Samuel Hahnemann, where he learned that for someone, for example, that was taking an overdose of cinchona bark, which was brought, to Europe by Countess Cinchona, it was being overdosed by the people. They were taking it beyond the bush, and they were actually boiling it, concocting it, extracting it, and people were developing side effects. And the way to remove the side effects, Hahnemann discovered by his pharmacy knowledge, by diluting it and diluting it and diluting it, in other words, taking it from bush tea or even thinner, giving it back to that same patient who overdosed it, eradicated the toxicity of the effect. So that was basically the beginning of homeopathy, the idea or the concept of the minimal dose. And it really was a study of toxicology. It was really a beginning study of toxicology. And I teach homeopathy as in the terms of chemical pharmacy, I teach it as a homeotoxicological approach. And then the spiritual aspects of homeopathy is actually another school. It was a variant that was developed after Hahnemann's original formulation of homeopathy. So, all right. So we're at 6:25 here already. Time flies. I'm sure you already are learning a lot. And I can go on like this for hours and hours. I know my subject backwards and forwards. And we'll be looking forward.
Let me interject this. Someone just came to my home to pick up some herbs, some St. John's bush. Some people call it dog bush. They wanted the bush because someone had to do a lot, wanted to help when it comes to the fertility and stuff. Can you give some insight what the importance of that bush and what it's helped in certain things for?
St. John's bush is a near sedative. It's also a tonic. It helps with hormone balancing. particularly in females. It's very good for
Yes.
sleep, and it has a wide spectrum of indications because it's such a beautiful plant. Even the petals of the red flower have been
Yes.
believed to be part of Christian faith, and it was very much I'm a member of the Order of St. John, so obviously we have great reverence for the plant because it's called St. John's plant, and
Yes.
it was used extensively in Europe. So it's one of our wonderful herbs.
One the reason why I mentioned it, someone came to me because there's a someone who have can't really get pregnant, get low fertility. So and plus some people have a lot of stress, so I'll tend to give that plant. Also, one of the things that I love about the plant is that it turned the water red.
Yes.
It's amazing. It turned the water red, and it has such a flavor where it's like a nectar. It's thick. You can taste potency is much different in the liquid itself, and it's very distinctive. Beautiful, beautiful plant. I run a lot. I mean, it's something I always have around me, and around my whole friends and stuff like that. Very beautiful. So I just wanted to put that in. So what's the ad? Someone came to me looking for a plant, and that's where I left and get outside, went to pick the plant to give that person and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. So I hope those who listening, females who listening and realize they have hormone imbalance and pregnant when it comes to infertility and getting pregnant and stuff like that. This is one of the plants you can use in a sense, and it's all around. It's all it's on the island, but a lot of people tend to mix it up with St. John's wort.
Yes, St. John's wort.
Yes. So kind of different St. John's wort medicinal purpose from what you just explained to the St. John's bush.
Yes, they're similar in the effects that they give, but what we do in those instances, we make a study of the materia medica. This is the materia medica that we use. It's Baricki's materia medica.
Yeah, come back. Yeah, that's the other way. Yeah. Yes, beautiful. Yes. Nice. Very thick.
Yeah, very thick. There's 632 remedies in this particular materia medica. It was published in 1927. And that's the reference volume that we use, amongst others. But that's sort of like this is sort of like our Bible, so to speak, because it's handy and it's reliable.
So how can one get? Yes, I was about to ask you, how can one get signed up for the class in the new year?
Yes, we have links that I gave to Ira. He's got links ready, I think, to put up on screen.
And maybe he could tell us about the course first. Tell us a little bit about the course so that folks who may be interested could at least get a little bit of feedback on it.
Yes, the course, we're going to do a 1 year's, what we call an accelerated bachelor's program. Okay, it'll be online, 4 terms starting in January. So January through March will be term 1, April through May through June, that will be term 2, and then July, August, September, term 3, and then October, November, December, term 4. Each of those terms will have online courses, which we basically gauge in clock hours. Clock hours means average time that is estimated that a student would tend to complete them. So for each term, there will be approximately 50 to 75 hours of study that will be done online. And then, of course, we will be hosting right here on Real Entertainment Network 3 Wednesday night classes per month throughout the year, which will be a total of 36-hour classes, which will be accompanied with it to keep you in live contact and to bring to life the material that's within the course. The material that's within the course is on a Moodle platform, which is the world international standard now. There's tens of thousands of schools using Moodle now. So the courses are either in written lesson, audio, or audio-visual lessons. And with each course, there is a set of quizzes. And the quizzes are automated, which means you take them online, you get your results real time. We work under the concept 3 strikes you're out, which means that you have to get a 70% correct answer to the quiz set in order to pass the quiz. And I can tell you from school history, because of the nature of the courses and the comprehensiveness, nobody fails. So the quizzes are just there to ensure that you're reading the material. They're not there to punish you. I don't believe in school punishment concept. If you read the material, you'll be able to easily take the quiz, and then we have record that you are working your studies. And then at the end of the course, you automatically will get generated a very nice PDF certificate with your name on it, with the name of the course and the clock hours and the fact that you've completed it. So it's self-paced, real-time interaction with the Moodle platform, and we have over 1,000 students that have been on this platform with Pan Am University now for the last 20 years. So it's a very good working website, no glitches, runs smooth as silk, nobody has a problem. So that's the online material. Now, the uniqueness of the material is I don't teach anything that's ordinary, okay? I don't teach anything that's ordinary because the medicine that's being taught today is essentially wrong. It's wrong, okay? The basis is wrong because it's not organic, it's not down to earth, and it's separated, thinking the body works just like a test tube. It doesn't see the whole individual as part of a earth global system. It sees the individual as a closed system that drugs can be given to and diseases corrected. And we all know that's not true. There's many factors of nature that affect us, even radiation and Wi-Fi and sunshine and day and night cycles and magnetic fields, and even the thoughts of other people affect us. So the human body is not a closed system. That is axiom number one. Number two is there's 3 epochs in medicine that occurred in the history of humanity as we know it. 3 epochs. The first epoch was shamanism. The belief that disease was caused by extra parapsychological people, spirits, entities, okay? And the priest would basically extract this evil energy from the body as the healing mechanism, okay? That was epoch period number 1. And those have principles of reality involved with them. Today, we would call that psychiatry, but there are working principles there that a student should appreciate and understand. And we have a course dedicated to shamanism to understand and appreciate that type of healing. There is a place for it. Number 2 is the epoch which West Indian medicine was immersed in, and that's called humoral medicine. And humoral medicine is the study of the elements, earth, air, fire, and water. And uniquely and amazingly, humoral medicine can be found in every culture of the world. Every culture of the world has humoral medicine, which means the 4 elements, the earth, air, fire, and water, and the concept of energy, what the Chinese call qi, what the Hindus call prana. Every culture has this concept of a vital energy that is extra physical, and it's associated with biological living tissue, plants and animals. And within humoralism, there were various schools like animism, for example, the touching of things, the proximity to other people, or even hypnosis and mesmerism, what Anton Mesmer called animal magnetism. These are valid concepts. They're not to be ignored in medicine. They're not to be taught as something just as a subject of the imagination. It's not foo-foo. And there is also an aspect of humoralism, of earth, air, fire, and water, that you have hot, you have cold, you have moist, you have dry. And these are elements of energy that affect the molecular body. We teach that as a principle. At the quantum physics level, we will teach you from quantum physics how these things actually are a reality. There is a qi of Chinese medicine. There is a pranayama of Hindu, all right? There are extra paraphysical things that are in the environment that affect us. And that goes into the understanding of the power of the bush, because you're not only taking the chemicals of the bush, you're taking the essence of the plant itself. And you have to appreciate that. Okay, you have to appreciate the fact that the plant is also a living organism. Now, having said all that, what I'm offering to you in 2026, for the first time in the entire history of natural medicine, we're going to couple the teaching of agriculture with nutrition and cooking. With nutrition and cooking. And you may ask, well, how does that work? Well, the soil is the firmament that grows the plant. In the human body, the bone marrow is the soil of the firmament that grows the blood. And the two have parallel functions. That's a wild concept. It's not taught in medicine, not even understood in medicine. Medicine doesn't even know how a stem cell works because they have not understood the microbiology of the soil. If you understood the microbiology of the soil, you would completely understand that the bone marrow is the soil of the body. You have to cultivate the soil of the bone marrow as much as you cultivate the soil to grow the plants. This is striking some musical notes, Yahsonn.
Quite interesting.
And this is not a 2 or 3 paragraph foo-foo subject. It was actually the entire fundament of research of an entire school of microbiology, Professor Gunther Enderlein. He wrote books on it. He had a very large following in Germany. There are still some practitioners that study it in Germany. But from my exposure to these German doctors, they haven't quite got the essence of what Enderlein was looking at as a zoologist. He was a zoologist. He was not a medical doctor. They could not appreciate the understanding of what he was teaching because they didn't understand soil science and microbiology. That's the missing link. So we're going to teach you a harmonic approach to soil, microbes, and then I'll drop tonight's bombshell on you. And this is always my reputation, as my students will tell you. Every time you listen to Doc, you always get a bombshell. Okay? So here's the bombshell for tonight. Everybody's heard of mitochondria, correct? Everybody's heard of mitochondria. Mitochondria makes ATP. Mitochondria makes all the energy of the body. Mitochondria this, mitochondria that. Well, what science hasn't come to grapple with is, and they're just now alluding to it, but they're not teaching it as part of mainstream medicine because the concept is just too wild to even fathom. But the fact is, the mitochondria is a bacterium. It's a soil microbe. That's where it came from. And it's in every one of our cells. And if we don't live in harmony with that mitochondrium, and entire books are being written on this now, the outcome of that is called chronic disease, specifically metabolic disease, metabolic syndrome as we know it today, sugar, pressure, and hyperlipidemia, cholesterol, and cancer. They are believing now that cancer, the core of the cancer problem is understanding the function of the mitochondrium. But if you don't understand the mitochondrium of being a bacterium that's in communication with the gut bacteria of the human body, and the gut bacteria interlink and communicate with the mitochondrium in the bodily cells, there's your soil link, okay? So the soil in the human gut is similar in operative function as the soil that grows plants and food, and we have to see it as that too. So there is a system of medicine that was taught by one of my teachers, Dr. Kerry Reams, where he was an agronomist. He was a specialist in agriculture, and he taught how to look at the human saliva, the urine, and the blood from a soil standpoint and compare the values of the pH, the salts, and the nutrients, and the food that's obtained from the soil determines the health of the soil of the human body. What the human body eats from the soil determines its health. And we're going to be teaching that whole system. It's very rare material. It's beautiful material. I've been using it for many, many years in practice. And this is why every patient comes to my clinic. We look at both the blood and the urine, and we get an idea of the soil that's feeding that human body and what has to be adjusted to put things back into balance. So
you see, one of the things people got to realize, they're eating, they tend to eat because they love the taste and the flavor, or when they cook the food, all the different, but we're really eating just to extract the nutrients and the amino acid and all the minerals from the food that we eat, just to survive as fuel. But we're not thinking like that. You see, what is in the soil, the plant, the root hairs, and everything, the plant root hairs extract everything up to its transport system, to out the plant, into its flowers, into its fruits, and we eat that fruit. We have a strictly alkaline fruits and vegetables. So then it be fathom when people tell you, well, how come you eat this with what, and you need red meat for this and red meat for that, and your blood have to be this, otherwise. But the reality, if you look around, then we make in nature, the animals, the birds, those that really eat plant-based diet who get in 100% more mineral nutrients they eat it from the primary source, are really the bigger and stronger, in a sense, animals within the chain, if you look at it. But we are just being conditioned to eat, to reverse, because of marketing strategy, and not realize but instead you are what you eat. And as you're breaking it down, what you're basically telling the viewers and listeners, everything having vibration. The plant is just not extract, it's a wholesome, just so we are plant of everything within the universe, we call it, and we have it. And the plant is, our blood system is just like the what we want to say. Yes, Yahsonn. It's the same as in the plant. When it comes, it's pigment, it's chlorophyll. The fruit in the plant is just like the blood within our body that running through our veins, is basically the same thing, if you want to look
that's
at
correct.
it that way. But we're not seeing it that way because we're not taught that way. You see, but so hearing it from your perspective, the viewers do it in a different view than me. I'm the one speaking it. Yahsonn speaking, and they figure, well, maybe Bankie high like a kite, so Bankie talk not his head, because sometimes they come to me in the last resort. But amazing, because I don't have a doctor, so that, but when the last resort they will come to me, but within, it's the same material. I mean, I'm just self-taught, and been over the last, since I'm 18, I've been living like this, eating 100% plant-based. I'm 48, so I had to read a lot, do a lot of research, in a sense like that. So I understand everything within the environment, and that is just exactly to just break it down and said. There's other things, ether. Let me say, you use ether within the environment, not because we don't see it. So the plants that grow amongst each other feed up in each other energy and vibration, and to make a wholesome. That's when you tell people, speak to the plants, and the plant have feelings. They feel, oh, you're crazy, and stuff like that. So I appreciate you going into that depth and putting it into that term. Rather you said it than me, because maybe I think I've said it enough, and the probably, so I don't find it amusing. Yes, and I laugh, but yes, I get it the same way. So
Well, yes.
so let us, Yes.
Yes, definitely. And here's what. Um, I think that we are having quite an interesting engagement, and I think the doc has done well in terms of presenting the information and is granting the globe the opportunity to get access to this information. So I'm hopeful that a lot of our people who are here are naives because he's practicing in Miami or in Florida, and he's practicing only other place he's practicing in the world other than in Florida is in Nevis. So I would want the Nevisians to take advantage of this opportunity and folks around the world to take on this
So,
course.
Yahsonn, let
Before
me
we
use
get
the US time. Yes.
so
Go
here's
ahead.
what
I
I'm
will
going
just say let me get the US time for
I am
get
going to
the.
yes, so
Go
here's
ahead,
what I'm going to
Yahsonn.
do. I'm going to let the technician bring in the ad, and then when we come back from the ad, then we get into the questions that are on the comments, and then have folks, if they want to call in to ask a question, give them that opportunity. You ready for that, Doc? We're going to take the commercial break in terms of the ad. Then when we come back from the ad, then we get into that segment. So, technician, let's roll.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I take the patient's history and then I look at the results of the urinalysis, the blood sugar, the blood cholesterol, the uric acid, the hemoglobin. I give that all a comparison in my mind compared to the symptoms that the patient relays to me. And then I do a system of what's called German electroacupuncture, of which I'm one of the original students going back into the 1970s. Dr. Reinhold Fohl was my teacher in Geppingen, and I worked with him and have written several books on the subject over the years. And I use various points on the hands and feet, which represent the different portions of the body. And essentially, these are neurological connections to internal organs, and the degree of conductance of the point tells me the activity that the organ is involved in. So if the conductance is very high, it tells me there's inflammation. If it's very low, it tells me that there's lack of activity or even degeneration occurring. If it's middle in the range, based upon population norms, then we know more or less the organ is in a relatively good health of state. So that of all things, of course, we never in medicine use one system of diagnosis. We always do comparisons to make sure everything is aligned and agreed. That's how I basically do my consultation with my patients. After we do this particular consult, then I take the patient to the laboratory and we do a final check on the blood, because we know from many years of experience the blood is almost never clean of parasites. And by parasites I don't mean just worms, I also mean bacteria and fungus, which frequently in people who eat irregular or eat poorly or have a bad diet, there's an infiltration of gut organisms that get into the blood constantly, and if they settle in a particular organ space and they proliferate, they will cause inflammation and disease. Well, it's very important to have a general checkup, even if you feel completely healthy and free from symptoms. There can be something percolating below the level of neural threshold where you don't actually feel it, and that could be something as simple as a cavity in a tooth, or it could be a transient small infection you picked up somewhere, or it could be your whole gut is invaded by bacteria. You don't really know, you don't really feel it because you're active and you're living a busy lifestyle, but at some point you will reach breakdown. So if you come here, we can catch it early and we can correct it.
Yes, and that's basically what the doc offers right here on Queen City, Nevis. And folks, if you are listening, you can, add your comments on the Facebook or the YouTube platform, or you can call us at 1-869-665-8459 or 1-869-662-7196. On the YouTube platform, Daniel says, just happened to come online, missed the beginning, but looking forward to the discussion on this topic. Well, when someone was talking about the links, Spyler Flick says the links are in the description. Beverly Hillbilly says, good night, very educational program. Please tell me, what does the doctor recommend to persons who are using these diabetic tablets indefinitely? Beverly Hillbilly says, too many of our citizens are losing their legs and toes. And then we have Wifey S4 says, wow, wonder doc. And those are some of the comments that we have there on the YouTube platform. Kevin Wilkins says, great doctor. Someone asked, what is good for alopecia? Alopecia, I think it's
Baldness.
ALOPECA. Yeah. Okay, right. So, and those are the questions and comments we have so far. So the two questions that are there, one spoke to what would you recommend to persons who are using diabetic tablets indefinitely? And then the other one, which is alopecia, which you would have alluded to, some bone issues. So you could probably respond to that.
Well, for diabetes is a metabolic condition or a metabolic breakdown, and it's essentially begins with toxicity of the cell. So there has to be detoxification that occurs with the typical acquired type 2 diabetes that's occurring today. It's not a matter of insulin. The body's still making plenty of insulin, but the cells are failing to burn sugar, basically. It's just that simple. And the internal health of the cell at that point has been poisoned, okay? And one of the principal poisonings of that is foods that are fried and greasy. These cause a wrapping around the cell, sort of like nutrients can't get in and poisons can't get out. So you have to go through a extensive period of detoxification and remove all these cooking and vegetable oils, not only out of your kitchen, but out of your body, because now they've been impacted into the health of your cell over the years. And these lipids, as they're called, are very sticky, they're very gooey, and they take a long time to get out of the system. So it will take weeks and months to detoxify. So you have to get on fresh oils like flaxseed oil and coconut oil and omega-3 fish oils, and you have to get all the cooking oil out of your system and out of your body. That's toxicity level number one. Number two, you have to get your water clean. You have to make sure there's no heavy metals in it, because that's poisoning your cells too. And then three, of course, you've got to start with a clean diet. And in West Indian culture, we all know what that main culprit is of diabetes. And when you see a diabetic patient, you generally find an eater of bread and cheese. Cheese and bread, bread and cheese. And those basically are just gut poisons. They're very bad for the body. They don't supply any nutrients. They fill you up, and they do not supply the nutrients of the body. Your best bet for a diabetic diet is basically ITAL. ITAL eating is your best way to eat, right, Bankie?
ITAL, that's what you're saying, eating ITAL.
ITAL is your best way to eat. It preserves the essence of the food, the cooking, the soups, the whole method. There's really not a more organic and healthy way to serve up your vegetables and eat that type of dietary which is very suited for the climate that we live in the West Indies. And
But
that will be
let me interject something there, Doc. While you're talking about that, I want to interject. Whole wheat. People tend to say, well, a lot they eat other whole wheat, they don't want white bread, but a lot of people don't tend to realize that whole wheat having gluten, which is a protein which tend to mess with the alignment of the stomach walls and stuff like that. So I want you to defend the whole wheat is so healthy. I mean, I would rather tell them multi-grains and stuff like that. But somehow here within in the Caribbean, we tend to say, oh, whole wheat is better than white bread, but the white bread is much more little safer than the whole wheat in a sense. But it tend to this theory where whole very healthy. I just wanted to put that where I mentioned bread and stuff like that.
Well, I agree with you, Bankie, because the wheat that you generally get store-bought is not the wheat of the Bible. It's a genetically modified wheat. It's very high in gluten.
Yes.
It's not the real wheat of the Bible. And if you really want to eat wheat, then you should get icorn wheat or one of the other real organic flours and go back to the old way of making it. The way the early West Indians did was, baking in the stone bread ovens. So the wheat that you're eating and buying, yes, it's a little better, but it's not much better. And there's so many other grains that you can eat aside from wheat that are so much more nutritious and just as cheap or cheaper and 5 and 10 times more nutritious. So with diabetes, there's also a modification that has to go up here too. You have to change your diet, your whole way of thinking and eating and looking at things. And that starts to reset and recorrect the physiology of your body, because habit fosters disease. If you have gotten to the point of diabetes, something in your life has fostered that and cultivated that syndrome in your body. So there has to be a complete change of mind, a complete change of diet, a complete change of body for it to reverse itself. It's not a matter of taking a pill.
But what is the importance of sweating? Because a lot of people don't sweat, because they don't do enough move around to sweat. So when you're not sweating, what happens to the body?
You pack poisons in. We teach a concept. The kidneys have approximately 2 million tiny little, what's called nephrons in the glomeruli of the kidney. Okay. Equally, God gave us also about 2 million sweat glands. So when you suppress your sweat glands and you live in airco and you wrap your sweat glands with cloth and silk and nylon and all these things, you choke off. The more you choke off your sweat glands, the more burden you put on your kidney. And that's why diabetics, in one respect, develop kidney disease, because they've lost the ability to sweat. Their skin's gotten dry. They don't exercise. They don't purge toxins from their system. There's a corollary there, and I love to teach these corollaries because they're easy to remember and they're common sense. They're just common sense. So the more you sweat, the more you improve your health of your kidneys. Sweating alone is a form of detoxification, and it's something that should be done all the time.
Yeah, but the reason why I mentioned sweating, because people tend to mention the body, they tend to mention the heart and the kidney, but they don't mention the largest organ is the skin. It's just like the largest organ in the world is the earth itself, because the earth itself is an organ, but people don't make the relation like that. So we'll skip the skin and not realize everything. So if it's just like when something drop on your skin, whether it is a dangerous chemical, it goes through your pores, it's gonna affect you because you absorb everything the same way. So I just wanted to impart these things. I mean, for you to expand on it from me saying it. It could come better from you saying it.
Yes, skin can technically be viewed as another endocrine gland. The fact that it produces vitamin D upon exposure to sunlight, that gets absorbed and feeds the inner organs with cholesterol, which is the foundational structure for the production of more hormones. We could say the skin, in essence, is by virtue an endocrine gland. and it's a detoxification gland. And we teach all these concepts. These are all part of nature, understanding nature.
Beautiful.
Well,
Yahsonn is already. Go ahead.
that's what I was
Go ahead,
about to
Yahsonn.
say, Right now, I'm feeling like, back in the day, I remember when I was much younger, and they had those popular soap operas on, and my parents used to watch that, and when you see the sweet part, this exciting part, and then it ends, and you have to wait for the next episode. I think that's where we are right now with this. We still have a lot of folks who are asking questions on the platform. I myself had a few questions that I wanted to follow up on. There was a question that you were not able to follow up in terms of the
Getting the questions on them, getting the questions on them while they're there. We always end getting the questions. It's very important to get them in and then.
Let's address the alopecia. I think. What can you say about that? How can what folks can use in terms of from a herbal standpoint to address alopecia? I think if I'm pronouncing
All right,
it
so alopecia has to be approached not just from an herbal nutritional standpoint, but also from a point of hygiene. All right, when hair hair on the head has a cycle. Hair on the head will live about 2 to 3 years, and then it will fall out, and then the hair follicle goes dormant for up to 90 days. And if that hair follicle gets impacted with grease or with soap or with sebum or bacteria, it will plug the follicle, and then just like an onion sprout, the hair can't come up. So the scalp has to be cleansed, deep cleansed first before anything herbally is going to work. And when you do the cleansing properly, I've had many people tell me that, after about the second or third day of doing a scalp cleanse on the head, they reach up to their head and they feel like there's sand on their palm. And what those are called seboliths. Those are sebaceous stones that have been popped out of the hair follicle, that for the first time now the hair follicle can breathe. The hair follicle has to breathe just like the soil, just like the lungs. It has to be open for the hair to reemerge in a normal growth cycle. So if it's plugged up and has that stone set in it, it's not going to reemerge. So hygiene is a very important part of the getting the hair to regenerate. That's really the secret to baldness and very few people understand that hygienic thing, and they put all kinds of creams, they take all kinds of tablets, and they think that the hair is going to go. But if it's mechanically plugged, nothing's going to happen.
All right. So there's another question. That was okay. ITAL is good. However, when it comes to blood types, how would you advise ones in that regards? Like eating. Well, I think you had spoke to that the last time you were there, but I guess there people think basically that you eat according to your blood type to some extent. I think that's where this question is going.
Yes, that's the Diodamo blood type. I don't follow that. Most of us gave up on that a long time ago. We didn't see it clinically being that specific to be of any utility. The most important thing about the diet, is it organic with the quality of food that you're getting? And two, what is the condition of your gut bacteria? Because if your gut biome is toxic from putrefactive organisms, everything you're eating is turning to poison. And it's not the food itself that's doing it. It's the gut that's producing it, because it's the bacterial products of the gut poisoning that's leaking into your blood and poisoning your organism. So the gut has to be harmonized first for the food to be properly extracted. And then the nutrients that you put into the body will start to have good action. So that's a very overlooked aspect of good nutrition.
Okay, and I was going to say the final question, but the two last questions that we have, because we're already over time, and like I said, soap opera, yeah, sweet part. So we got two questions. One, what plant or herbal remedy for sickle cell anemia? And the second question is Greek yogurt good for gut bacteria or for good gut health? Greek yogurt, is that good for gut bacteria or good for gut health? And then the second one is what plant or herbal remedy you would suggest or recommend for sickle cell anemia?
Uh, Last question first is yes, Greek. All the yogurts are basically good. Some are better depending upon the type of organism that's used to culture it, but all of them are basically healthy. All the lactobacilli are, and the bifidus are all healthy to help. The only caution of that is if you do have a lactose intolerance, it's certainly not something you want to overdo in your diet because it's not the question of the bacteria in the yogurt, it's the lactose and the source where the milk came from. In terms of the sickle cell anemia, prickly ash xanthoxylum is one of the herbs, but there are several herbs of the category of blood cleansers, which are very helpful for sickle cell anemia. They're readily available on the web if you want to. And today we don't do Google anymore. We basically use artificial intelligence. Just type in sickle cell anemia herbs, and you'll get a whole litany of scientific studies that have been done on that. But any of the herbs that are basically of the blood cleansing category help preserve the integrity of the cell membrane of the sickle cell itself and reduce the sickling as the red cell comes out of the bone marrow. That is the basic principle of treating sickle cell. And I've treated quite a few sickle cell cases down through the years and have helped kept them alive for way beyond their expected life expectancy, which is generally at 25 or 30 years old. And I have sickle cell patients living into their 40s and 50s. So herbs do work with sickle cell.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. So here's what we're gonna do, Doc. We're gonna with the last question I'm seeing here. How do you detoxify yourself of heavy metal and radiation? I'm gonna allow you to answer that with you wrapping up, giving us a summary of the course that you're offering for 2026. That would be the way we wrap up this edition. And based on the questions and based on the feedback and comments on the wall and so on, I see and know that this show is going to be something that folks are going to be looking forward to every Wednesday evening. And so I want you folks who are listening, this is the first edition of this program, but please be tuned in every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. right here on Real Entertainment Network for another edition of West Indian Medicine. We're going to give you that opportunity, Doc, to wrap up with your summary of the course and responding to briefly how you would detoxify your body of heavy metals and radiation.
To detoxify with heavy metals is a three-prong approach, basically. Number one is replacing those metals in the body with the metal that has been robbed from the body physiology. So, for example, we know that by giving oral iodine, patients that are deficient in iodine tend to accumulate mercury in their body. So when we give oral iodine drops, because of the body's capacity to self-heal, it will start absorbing the iodine and expulsing the mercury from the body, and that has been tracked scientifically from the urine. It absolutely works. So first you want to mineralize your body with the proper minerals, and in the West Indies we have one of the easiest ways to do that. It's called seawater. You start drinking a little bit of seawater every day. That will give you all the trace minerals that you need. And I'm only talking about, a half or 1 ounce of seawater taken right from the sea. Fresh is good. And putting that into a quart of water and sipping that throughout the day, that will start to replenish your trace minerals in your system and bring vitality to your system and your blood. That's number one. Number two, chelating the heavy metal out is the second way, which means you want to use a chemical that magnetically grabs the heavy metal and pulls it out of your system. And one of the principal ways to do that is with sea moss, all your seaweeds in the diet, because the seaweeds are good for two things. One is it gives you that iodine, and two is the algin in the seaweed binds the heavy metals in the gut when it comes out through the liver and gallbladder. So a regular good diet of sea moss and seaweed every day, a little seawater, you will naturally start to detoxify. That's the best ways to get and start things. And there's other more specific medical ways. EDTA is one such thing. Zeolite is another chemical that you can drink, and it will help pull heavy metals out. And there's cilantro, the herb cilantro that you can drink as a tea, also is known to help expel heavy metals from the body. So, as we say, there's lots of ways to skin a cat in the natural healing world. It's just knowing which one is going to work best for the patient that you're dealing with. That's where the art of healing comes in, is knowing when and where all these different bounties and beauties that God and nature provides that we can apply to the human system to get them turned around. So, we're not going to leave you hanging between here and Christmas. We're not going to leave you hanging between here and Christmas. You can matriculate for $100 tonight, today, tomorrow, okay? For $100, you will get your first course of the program. And then we'll send you a formal application, get you matriculated, and then once you're in the bosom of the school, so to speak, you'll be privy to the Sunday school lectures I give 2 or 3 times a month every Sunday on all various topics of natural medicine. And as I live up to my reputation, Doc's always good for at least one bombshell per lecture. So you'll be put into the school program on the school mailing list, and you can be started part of this whole process. And the one course we're going to provide for you is called Healthology. It's one of the most beloved courses of our entire school. We've been using it for over 20 years. It's an audio course. There's not a lot of reading you have to do. It gives you the basic principles of chemistry, anatomy, and physiology as applied to body pH, diet, and the use of vitamins and minerals for self-healing capacity. It's a course that everybody in the school loves. So we make it the introductory course because it kind of gives you a global view of what the school is all about. So Ira, our tech man, will give you the screenshot of the form online that you can fill out tonight. You can get engaged and get enrolled and get going with this. And then we will formally start in January with the full program, with the Wednesday night lectures. And those are, of course, open to the Real Entertainment Network audience. There will be no charge if you just want to look at these lectures every night. But if you really want to get into the heavy-duty mastery of this science, we do not stop at the bachelor's level. That's first level of training. We will take the program on to the second year, which will be your master's. And if you make it through all of that, you can go on to the doctorate, and you can end up actually working with me as an intern, and we'll teach you how to make a practice out of all of this, a superior medical practice, I would say. Yahsonn, you've been there, you've seen.
Yes, definitely. And I myself seeking to get myself involved and get prepared to be a part of this as well. So I definitely would encourage folks to, go on over at least, one of the things that I'm impressed with is the blood test, the blood work, where you actually get to see, if you have the bacteria and parasites and so on moving around in your blood and all that. So you can detect whatever the issues are, and then it could be adjusted, or he can provide you with whatever is necessary to address some of those issues. And so I definitely would recommend that. And for folks who are interested, you have a specialist here on island. Folks on Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis especially, and throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean, because we have that OECS agreement now where folks can move from OECS territories and visit, these parts of the world. Please, take on this course. Let us, not allow this knowledge to pass us by. As the doc would have told me when I was there, he's not getting much younger. And so he definitely want to be able to, ensure that as many, can pass this on to the future generations, and that we can have a much more healthier society starting right here on Nevis, where you have the opportunity, first in the Caribbean, to have anything like this. And you don't have to worry about testimonials, because you have thousands of people on the island who can give you testimonials of, the experiences that they would have experienced working along with the doc. So, doc, we want to thank you. I think we would be off to a very good start. This is a relay race, and I was taking that baton. I think I would have been happy. I might have been even, just sprinting a little bit, knowing that I'm ahead of the game. So I think we had a very exciting edition. The folks are very much interested, and they will be looking forward to next week for edition number 2. So thank you very much. And for all those who tune in to Real Entertainment Network, we stream live on Facebook. Please go on over to our YouTube platform, sign up on the YouTube, and we also stream via Twitch TV as well. And so we want to say see you guys on Friday when we are back with another edition of Everything Agriculture, and we should have the Minister of Agriculture on St. Kitts and Nevis, or Federal Minister of Agriculture, with us on the edition of Everything Agriculture Friday. So, there's a packed month here in November, and we're looking forward to you being a part of us and being a part of it. And Doc, you're in good hands, and I think you are going to help to keep our, listeners and folks excited, informed, and we're looking forward to having some serious numbers. People take advantage of the opportunity. When I listen to some of the cost of the course, and you compare it to what you may have to do out there, you'll be like, "Doc, you're really giving away." So I really want you to take the opportunity and learn as much as possible from the expert that we have, amidst us. So, guys,
Doc, before you go, do you have an idea what topic going to be next week? Yeah, are you going to just, if you have it organized, are you going to just surprise them next week?
I'll surprise you next week. I'll give you something
All
in
right.
advance, Bankie, in the next few
All right,
days.
beautiful. All right, beautiful. I appreciate you, and thanks for coming on again, and looking forward for next week. Reasoning as usual. Guys, thanks for listening. You guys make the show wonderful this evening. To share the link and tune into Real Entertainment Networks.
I take the patient's history, and then I look at the results of the urinalysis, the blood sugar, the blood cholesterol, the uric acid, the hemoglobin. I give that all a comparison in my mind compared to the symptoms that the patient relays to me. And then I do a system of what's called German electroacupuncture, of which I'm one of the original students going back into the 1970s. Dr. Reinhold Voll was my teacher in Geppingen, and I worked with him and have written several books on the subject over the years. And I use various points on the hands and feet, which represent the different portions of the body. And essentially, these are neurological connections to internal organs And the degree of conductance of the point tells me the activity that the organ is involved in. So if the conductance is very high, it tells me there's inflammation. If it's very low, it tells me that there's lack of activity or even degeneration occurring. If it's middle in the range, based upon population norms, then we know more or less the organ is in a relatively good health of state. So that of all things, of course, we never in medicine use one system of diagnosis. We always do comparisons to make sure everything is aligned and agreed. That's how I basically do my consultation with my patients. After we do this particular consult, and I take the patient to the laboratory and we do a final check on the blood, because we know from many years of experience the blood is almost never clean of parasites. And by parasites, I don't mean just worms, I also mean bacteria and fungus, which frequently in people who eat irregular or eat poorly or have a bad diet, there's an infiltration of gut organisms that get into the blood constantly. And if they settle in a particular organ space and they proliferate, they will cause inflammation and disease. Well, it's very important to have a general checkup, even if you feel completely healthy and free from symptoms. There can be something percolating below the level of neural threshold where you don't actually feel it, and that could be something as simple as a cavity in a tooth, or it could be a transient small infection you picked up somewhere, or it could be your whole gut is invaded by bacteria. You don't really know, you don't really feel it because you're active and you're living a busy lifestyle, but at some point you will reach breakdown. So if you come here, we can catch it early and we can correct it.